He said, okay, Paul.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order the meeting for Bedford Township for January 18th, 2022. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, if Pastor Tim Lowy could come on up and lead us in prayer.
I bring greetings from the members and friends of Christ the King Lutheran Church in Lambertville, and where we preach Jesus Christ and Him crucified. And January 18th is not just the Bedford Township meeting; it is the commemoration of the Confession of St. Peter. And St. Peter said, when Jesus asked, "Who do you say I am?" and he said, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God," and that's who we put our faith in. And He gives us faith to do it. So we'll have two short prayers today, one for St. Peter and then one for you guys. Huh? Heavenly Father, you revealed to the Apostle Peter the blessed truth that your Son, Jesus, is the Christ. Strengthen us by the proclamation of this truth, that we too may joyfully confess that there is salvation in no one else, through the same Jesus Christ our Lord, who lives and reigns with you in the Holy Spirit, one God, now and forever. Amen. Eternal Lord, ruler of all, graciously regard those who have been set in positions of authority among us, especially our Bedford Council, that guided by your Spirit, they may be high in purpose, wise in counsel, firm in good resolution, unwavering in duty, that under them we may be governed quietly and peaceably through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. The grace of our Lord Jesus Christ and the love of God and the communion of the Holy Ghost be with you all. Amen. And thanks for inviting me.
Thank you so much. Okay, item 2 is approval of the agenda. I believe we want to remove 8G. Other than that, if anybody else has any corrections, I'll look for a motion.
Motion to approve the agenda is amended.
Support. Okay, motion supported by Mr. Bruning. Discussion? Okay, seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 7-0. Item 3 is the consent agenda. The agenda committee recommends to approve and place on file A, minutes of the January 4th, 2022 regular meeting of the Bedford Township Board. B, general savings, pooled funds, and CD reports from the treasurer for November 2021. C, general savings, pooled funds, and CD reports from the treasurer for December 2021. D, revenue and expense report and balance sheet for the period ending 12/31/21. E, special assessment district deficit elimination plan, 10 separate plans. F, resignation of Josh Stump from the grant writing committee effective immediately. Look for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
Support. Okay, motion is supported by Mr. Bruning. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 7-0. Item 4 is a presentation. A financial audit report from Neil Hammerbacher and Gamers and Company. Accept and place on file. How you doing?
Great. How are you?
Good. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Everyone has in front of you an audit report?
Yes, sir.
Good. I'll make 7 or 8 comments, then I'll open it up for questions. Page 1. So this is a report for the year ending June 30th, 2021. Page 1 is the independent auditor's report. If you go down to the second paragraph, management's responsibility for the financial statements. Management is responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of these financial statements. So this report is 70-some pages long, and even though we put it together, it's a non-audit service, so management has to assume responsibility for these financial statements. If you go down to the next paragraph, auditor's responsibility, our responsibility to express an opinions on the statements based on our audit testing. So if you go to the top of page 2, we give this opinion, and I'm paraphrasing. In our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the township as of June 30th, 2021. So it's an unmodified opinion. If there was something wrong with the report, we'd have to modify or qualify our opinion. So in layman's terms, it's a clean opinion. So management should be commended for that. Page 5. This is a part of the report called Management's Discussion and Analysis, and there are some financial highlights. I want to talk about the third bullet. At the end of the current fiscal year, the unassigned fund balance of the general fund was $2,802,000, or 63.9% of the general fund's expenditures and transfers out. So years ago, I went to a conference where Treasury presented, and they think you have a problem if this number or this percentage is 13% or less. So at 63.9%, you're in good shape there. So I wanted to point that out. Pages 15 and 16.
Real quick on that, what is the recommendation?
The recommendation by the GFOA is 17%.
Okay.
So
So we're
you got some room there.
got some room. Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Yeah. Pages 15 and 16, as I mentioned, this report is roughly 70-some pages long. These 2 pages, in my opinion, are the most important. 15 is a statement of net position. It tells you at a point in time, this case, June 30th, 2021, what your assets are, your liabilities, and your net position. So total assets were $70,121,000. Total liabilities were $29,233,000. And your net position was $40,887,000. So the second line from the bottom is what most people look to. You can see there's positive numbers all across the board. That doesn't always happen with a lot of cities and villages and counties with defined benefit pension plans and OPEB. Those numbers are negative, so you're in good shape there. Page 16. This is a statement of activities. On the left-hand side, it starts with your expenses along functional areas. So public safety or public works, those are called functional areas. You have some dedicated revenues called program revenues. On the right-hand side, you get to a net expense number. And then you come down and you have some general purpose revenues, your property taxes, your state revenue sharing, where those aren't specifically tied to an expense. So the third line from the bottom answers the question, are we better off for this year, worse off, or about the same? So the township was better off to the tune of $3,382,000. So it was a positive year financially for the township. Page 34. The very last paragraph says the township, so it's a legal requirement in the state of Michigan that the governments adopt budgets for their general fund and all their special revenue funds. So the last paragraph says the township had no expenditures in excess of amounts appropriated during the year June 30th, 2021. So across all those funds, you had no budget exception. So management should be commended for that also. Page 35. You do have a blemish. The following funds have deficit fund balances as a result of unavailable special assessment revenue. So you can see all those funds and the negative fund balance position. So I saw on your consent agenda that you adopted deficit elimination plans for all these funds. So when we sent in the audit, that triggered Treasury sending you a letter saying, you're in deficit, you need to file a corrective action plan within 30 days, and that's why you're filing those deficit elimination plans. So at the end of the report, I think after page 65, starts a new report. This is our governance letter. Yeah, right after page 65. So anytime a public accounting firm does an audit, there are certain things we have to communicate to the governing body, and we write this letter to fulfill that obligation. So if you go to page 2, it says difficulties encountered in performing the audit. We encountered no significant difficulties in dealing with management in performing and completing our audit. So we got very good cooperation from everyone at the township. And I bring this up because auditing has changed dramatically in the last 2 years because of the pandemic. Except for a couple days that I was here doing some testing, the rest of the audit was done remotely. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. And so this report had to go to Treasury by December 31st, and we met that deadline. We doubt if the state even reads this report. What they do read is another report that we send along called an auditing procedures report. And that's a report where the state asks the auditing firm 20 questions about the audit. And we were able to answer positively except for the deficit position. You got the letter, you're filling the deficit elimination plans. So you should be good to go from there. And with that, I'll open it up for questions.
Anybody have any comments, questions?
How did we
Mr.
get
Gore?
to the, yes, how did we, and maybe this is for you, Paul, how did we get to the deficit with the SADs?
Well, that's a
Page 35.
question, but
Okay,
When we have the SADs, we loan the money to the residents from our funds, which puts those funds in a deficit. So as they pay them back, it comes out of the deficit. If we stopped doing that and did bonding, we wouldn't have any deficits, but that puts an extra cost to our residents, so we try to avoid that.
okay. And I guess we'll discuss further with the deficit elimination plan. We can discuss some more of that.
Deficit elimination plans that we submit just say how through the years it will be paid back, and then we
Correct.
wouldn't have a deficit.
Been down that road before at the school
Correct.
board, it was miserable. I just hope it's a different
Ours,
deficit elimination plan this time.
it is, because ours show the residents paying back, and we already have schedules going all the way out till the end of the term that they would pay. They know that they have to pay 15 years unless they pay ahead of time. We already have that scheduled out, so we send that to the state, that it goes all the way to the end and shows that it'll end up in a positive.
Okay, all right, thank you.
does the firm have recommendations on the SADs with the use of the water fund for SADs? I mean, is there,
You know, actually, you see this quite a bit with special assessment districts, where you're going to collect the money in future years and it's in a deficit.
but it being a water fund?
Within a water fund?
It's a water fund that we use.
He's saying we borrowed from the water fund, and so the money goes back to the water fund.
Yeah. So you don't get to, in the special assessment districts, record that as revenue, which would give you a positive fund balance. What you're doing is you're showing as a liability paying back to the water fund. So by its very nature of doing it that way.
So the only way for us to ever get out of the deficit is to stop borrowing money.
Well, the deficit thing with this SAD is
Which I
nothing
think,
new, correct?
here's
I mean,
here's
No.
what I've always said with it. It's
right.
not fair because we can never continually have enough money to borrow to the public.
Right,
So like right now we're out, so the next people doing the SADs have to bond it. Now they got to spend $40,000 when the last 15 or 10 didn't. They got to use the water fund.
Well, that's why I'm looking with banks, too, to try and avoid the bonding and just get a low cost with
Yeah.
going through
Which
banks.
is probably the best way because it's only fair,
right.
you know.
Okay. Thank you.
Any more? Oh, Mr. Steiner?
On your last page, number 5, and just on your comment and your recommendation there, it talks about no easy answers to the challenge of balancing the costs. Talks about management control and encourage management to actively seek ways to further strengthen internal controls. Talking about the approval of the accounting function by qualified members of management. Did you see anything there that you feel we need to really get stronger on with a cross-check, double-check on the
Well-
controls themselves, or from an internal audit type situation?
Well, what we're talking about there is segregation of duties.
Right?
So you want to separate authorization from the recording of the transactions for the custody of the asset itself.
So did you feel that was an actual deficit to us, or are we doing okay there?
No,
or-
actually, Treasury disregards that because it's so commonplace.
Okay.
So in that APR I talked about, it says other than segregation of duties, what else did you find?
Yeah, I was just trying to understand how to interpret the comment itself.
Right.
That's all.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought we had our controls set, but wanted to make sure.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's one thing I pointed out to Bob. The state came out with fiscally, what's the term Treasury uses? Best practices for fiscally responsible communities. So that document's been out there 2 years. And we haven't been told to audit to that yet, just to let you know that it's out there. You go to Treasury's website, and they got a ton of best practices out there. So a lot of them are internal control related.
Okay. Any more questions, comments? Okay.
I just want to thank Neil. It was a great audit. It was very easy. Gamebridge was able to go through BSNA, so I wasn't pulling reports. They were able to pull their own reports, so it went very smoothly. I just
Yeah,
want
the
to thank
township
you.
uses BSNA software, which is pretty common, but our firm acquired the software last year. So now we get backups of your general ledger, your accounts payable, your payroll, and we're able to see 100% of the information ourselves and
Very
run
good.
our own reports. So,
And our finance manager also complimented working with you guys, I'll tell you that.
okay, good.
Okay. All right.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Can we just get a motion to accept and place on file the audit?
I'll make a motion to accept and place on file the financial report from Neil Hammerbacher, Gaybridge and Company, as presented.
Support. Okay, motion and support of Ms. Janazek. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Ms. Janasek?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 7-0. Up next is 4B, Monroe County Sheriff Department update.
Good evening, Board.
Appreciate you being here.
Hey, no problem. So I just have a few things. Feel free to interrupt. Actually, I got five topics. And if you want to interrupt and ask questions, feel free. The stats. I see that there was only the December stats posted. Did our place not send you the November?
They were both there.
They're both there? Okay, good. All right. I think those the stats are pretty straightforward, so if you don't have any questions on those, I can move on to my next topic. Yeah.
Was there a date error on there? Because you see contract service says 12/1 to 12/31, and then the next section, contract 12/1 to 12/31.
One's
There's-
the Bedford contract and one's the
And
other,
one's
but then
the
right
other.
after it, you'll see November.
They're
Go on a
back to
couple
back.
pages.
Okay. You go.
I circled
Okay.
it. I couldn't see it.
I was reading it a little bit differently the way the front.
So every month, we send you just your contract deputies, the deputies that are assigned into the Bedford Township, and then you also get I guess, a comprehensive report of all of the other deputies, not, I guess, for lack of better terms, funded by Bedford. You get that report as well. So, and it's pretty easy to. It doesn't say at the top, but it's pretty easy to determine which one is just Bedford and which one is the entire department.
Yeah, it's just
So-
that they both state Bedford contracted.
Correct.
That's why I questioned.
Yep. So, and I will tell you, and moving on to my, I'll skip around here. We are going to a new report writing system. It was supposed to take about 8 to 9 months to implement. We're just shy of 2 years, I think, and we're in the final stages of testing. So your report that you have right now is going to be different eventually. So I guess we'll have to learn that once it comes out. But we think it's going to provide more data. It's going to provide different, kind of crimes that were in Bedford Township. We call them file classes, murders, assaults, domestics, larcenies, frauds. It'll break it all down, number of crimes. I'm not sure what else the report's going to contain, but I knew it's going to be a little bit more robust than what you currently have. So just know that that's coming. Like I said, final stages of testing and implementing are going on right now. So fingers crossed. This was supposed to be done in 9 months, though. We're just under 2 years. So staffing. Last meeting I talked about staffing. Frenchtown added 4 deputies. Monroe Township added 1. That put a little stress on us. I told you then I did not expect any interruption of service here for Bedford. And I'll tell you, I still don't expect any interruptions, but we've had a couple resignations over the holidays. One is got hired by Grand Rapids Police Department in Michigan, and another one resigned. Just he got out of law enforcement altogether. It just wasn't for him. And then we had an unplanned retirement later on this year. So, quite frankly, we're struggling with numbers, but I do not anticipate any interruption of service or having to cut back or anything like that. But I just wanted to let you know that we're continually hiring, we're continually training, and that really hasn't changed since I think I've been here. So we're used to it, but you'll see a lot of new faces. Currently, we have 5 in our training program. We have 4 that are starting the academy next week, actually, and one of them is one of your own, Sam Pitson. She's a firefighter. I understand she's going to take a leave of absence to attend our, police academy. So I apologize to Chief Massengill, but it would be an empty apology. So we're happy to have her. We think she's going to make a great deputy. So as well as a great firefighter. So, but we're going to steal it for the next several months. So. Motels. There'd been some talk about getting a report. I had hoped to come here with that report with the numbers. It's just not. It's not done. It's a combination of the person that was responsible for it got hit with COVID. It was the holidays, and this report writing system is again, we're still struggling with that. I do expect to have it in the next couple of weeks. I hope, and I certainly would think I could present something to you. At least let you know the numbers, the kind of numbers that we're talking about. I believe we went back 2 to 3 years, I think is what we wanted to go, what we wanted to start with. And I think that's kind of appropriate. And eventually I'll get with Mr. Goldsmith and we can kind of come up with a game plan. So I wanted to throw that out there. And then finally, I told you last meeting I was going to kind of highlight one case in Bedford that directly affects Bedford, and it just so happens that it was born out of the motels. It's a human trafficking. It happened in December, and it's a human trafficking in its truest form. We're learning as a department. Our goal is to educate all of our staff on the signs of human trafficking and what to look for, because they're not easy. People that engage, in prostitution, all too often are actually getting forced into it, through drugs, money. And in this particular instance, that's exactly what happened. We had a young woman who was forced into basically selling herself. The person who was controlling her actually kept all the money. It was thousands of dollars. She was put on a site that they took her phone, her identification. There was violence, there was threat, there was drugs, and this went on and on and on. And eventually, we were able to get enough information to kind of pin down, where she was, because it was all done over the internet. We tried our new Viper response, our task force, which combats this. We were unsuccessful trying to recover her that night. We didn't know where she was at. But we had it narrowed down to a motel here, because they would flip from motel to motel. Unfortunately, that particular night, we everything was a go until they backed out. But as we learned, the suspect was controlling her phone. He was actually talking to our undercover people. I believe it was the next night or the night after that, we had a call for service. She was able to reach out to an ex. We went there. It was a domestic situation. As it turned out, she was violently assaulted. She was able to exit the room as our deputies were responding. They latched onto her, latched onto the guy who was in the motel room. Like I said, he assaulted her, in the face, really bad. We recovered a bunch of money that she claimed that she was earned, if you will, and but he again kept it. He was stealing from her. So he is charged with 3 major felonies. They're all 20 years. We're hopeful that we can have successful prosecution. Sometimes these cases don't work out like that, but we've got some. We were able to connect her with some supportive people that work in that arena, and hopefully we can get successful prosecution out of this guy. But again, Joe and Todd, brought it up. You all know that there's problems down at those motels, and this is one of those cases that we're taking on head on. So hopefully our efforts collectively can put a stop to, or at least slow it down. So.
No, for sure. Paulie, can you update, we've had discussions on a vehicle. We do have in our budget $50,000 for this fiscal year for a vehicle. We've discussed a Tahoe because the Explorers currently aren't really working out. There are a lot of maintenance. They're
Yeah. In
upkeep
fact,
and
in fact, we just found out today that Ford they have not entered into an agreement with the My Deal, the purchasing program. Has something to do with rating their cars as police rated, pursuit rated, I'm sorry. So right now, I don't think Ford is pushing out cars at all. So we're kind of stuck because I know the Dodge Chargers are kind of going away, and we're afraid to buy new cars that we can't transfer equipment. What we found with the Tahoes is, talking to the dealer just today, the Tahoes pretty much all the equipment can, for years, you take it out of the, when you retire a car, you take it out and you put it in a new car, and as long as it's good operating conditions. So right now we're kind of in favor of the Tahoes. They're pursuit rated. They provide space, and again, I think it's a good vehicle that you guys can transition, to township use, after they get retired from the, use it as a rope patrol car.
so and then possibly update if we're going to be getting estimates on the speed. If we're going to get some sort of study where we should put them, how many we need to look into, because they are working. I get calls on a regular basis from the community members that they just love the new speed signs.
Admittedly, I'm not. I know Frenchtown. I think we were kind of trying to piggyback Frenchtown because I think Frenchtown wants a couple. Is that what you recall from the
Yeah.
sheriff? Okay. I don't have an answer for you at the moment or where that project's at. To be honest
Okay.
with you, I just don't. I apologize.
Does the board want me to pursue working with them on a Tahoe for this fiscal year? So I think the total is $58,000 and we only budgeted 50, so we need an $8,000 budget adjustment.
And I think, to be fair, I think that's on the high side, the absolute high side. We wanted to give you the high number, just
Yeah.
and I do feel like it's going to come in lower, but
I mean, okay. Okay. Anybody else
You
have any?
mentioned
What's that?
50, you mentioned 50 in the budget, but
We budgeted 50 and the estimate I got roughly was 58.
you're probably going to carry that over to the next budget year, because I doubt you're going to be using that this year.
Well, we would have to put an order,
Right. You'd
Well,
place the order, but
they're again, just today, we found this out today that we found a dealer somewhere in the state. He ordered 20 vehicles, and I think he's got them on the lot. So there'd be 22 models. Otherwise, I think we'd have to wait till the end of the year,
Okay.
and possibly next year. So I don't know what that does for your budget. If you can carry that money, forward, I would think it'd probably be no
Yes.
big deal. But
just depends on how long we want to wait and take that chance, because I know that manufacturing just keeps getting pushed out.
you're right. We ordered a car in February of last year.
Yeah.
So
We've got it in the budget, and reference, other than a budget adjustment, and they know where the car's at. I think we should move on it.
Okay.
I can get more information.
Yeah, let's do that.
Email
Yeah,
or-
so investigate, see what they are, and if they're the police rated. And
Okay, any more comments or questions?
All right.
Any
thank
more
you.
to add? We really appreciate you coming.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you, guys.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night.
Great night.
Good seeing you.
take care.
Okay, up next is number 5, comments from the public. Comments limited to 5 minutes for board agenda items only. Come on up.
Good evening, Logan Tisdale, 1308 Brandywine Street. I'm going to talk about the sheriff's report for the month from 12/1 to 12/31. I want to preface that by saying that I think it was last week I had a chance to call the sheriff's department. There was a residence in a neighborhood that there was a suspicious situation. Garage door was left open. There was a door leading into the house was open. The family dog was running out, which is unusual. In fact, I've never seen that before. My wife and I, we decided to call because it was suspicious, and we got a hold of a woman dispatcher. It was a non-emergency number that we called. She was very polite. I was very, very impressed by how she reacted to what we said. We told her it was not an emergency. She said she would send over an officer, and we waited at the scene until somebody got there. One of the deputies showed up, someone I had met before, very professional. We tried to get people in the residence to respond without actually going in the house, and I'd done that before, but I couldn't get a response. He tried that, I couldn't get a response. Waited for backup. Backup came. They announced who they were. They went in and looked around and stuff and realized there was no one in the house. They were able to find out, I guess, from the residents who the owner was and where they got a phone number and called them up, and within probably about 15 minutes the owners of the house showed up and stuff. I was really impressed with the way they handled it. I really was. It was the way police should handle situations like that, especially situations that are suspicious. Could have been a break and entering. You don't know what happened. You have no idea what you're going to find inside. You have no expectations of anything good when you see garage doors opens and houses that are unlocked and stuff, especially when it's at night. So I was really impressed with that. But I want to say this and comment on the individual activity for December 31 of 2021 and December 1st. If you look at that particular page where there's listed 12 officers, you see 2 officers there wrote 31 traffic tickets out of 51. 2 guys on 50 hours of patrol. That's pretty darn good. I'd be happy with seeing that activity across the board. They actually made 15 arrests out of, I think, 21, or I think it was 21 or 30 arrests. They made most of the arrests. So traffic stops and traffic citations seem to have a correlation with making other arrests. When you stop people that are violating the law, you know, there's a good chance there might be a warrant out. They may be suspended. You have no idea what you're going to find. These 2 guys did the lion's share of that work for the month. But what concerns me is when I see 78 hours on patrol and not 1 citation, 92 hours on patrol and not a citation, 39 hours on patrol with 1 citation, 71 hours on patrol with 1 citation, which comes out to about 2 citations for 280 hours on patrol. There's some room for improvement there. And I'll leave that up to you, since you contract with them. But that costs us a lot of money. And when you have 280 hours on patrol and you only write 2 traffic citations, and these other guys go out there with 50 hours on patrol and they write the lion's share for the month, that concerns me. I'm not going to beat the bush and say that everybody's going to go out and write tickets all day long, but when you get guys that are able to find that out there, and we just had a survey on Lewis Avenue where we know the traffic volume on Lewis Avenue is enormous. I mean, I live right off Lewis Avenue. I drive that road every day, multiple times, and you drive 45 miles an hour and they run over you. So, I mean, even if you just sat out there for, 1 or 2 days a week and stuff and put up a radar out there, people realize very quickly that they're there to be enforced, and I think there could be a little bit better patrol ratio to tickets when you have 280 hours on patrol and only 2 citations. But those other 2 officers did an outstanding job. That's really pleasing to see that as a former police officer. So I want to thank the Sheriff's Department for their response. It was really pleasing to see them guys out there working and doing a good job. So I want to preface that with something positive rather than just saying something negative. So thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any more comments?
Gail Kane, 1056 West Temperance. I wasn't going to speak, but after Officer Pauley spoke, I am glad to see finally that the Sheriff's Department's getting on board with this, these people, and it's not just girls that are trafficked, it's boys. And Tressa Duffin from the State Police Post has done an enormously huge job throughout the entire state. She had come to the school in the past and has talked her talk, and that's where I first heard her, was through a talk that she gave at the library. I have tried to indicate how people need to be attentive to these things in the township. It's where you put your benches. You don't invite kids to sit at stoplights. Those are pickup points. That's where they traffic their drugs. That's where they grab kids. So I've tried to bring attention to this, and I know early on that we're not aware of anything like that going on in this township. That's the problem. Nobody's aware of it, but it's happening. It's happening every single day. And in the Monroe paper, they just had a story where they will be doing a talk, I believe, on the 29th. I didn't realize he'd bring it up, or I would have had the right information, but the Monroe paper in this past week has had stories about it. And I told you, January is Human Trafficking Month. So it's not just the girls, there's boys, and it starts at a young age. So it happens within the churches, it happens within the schools. The medical profession they're trying to teach people. They're scared to death. They can't speak. They won't stand up for themselves. They really have to get themselves into a situation. It's no different than domestic violence. I don't know how many times I've taken care of a woman who's been beat the crap out of, and you offer and get them help, and they turn right around and go back and get another dose of it. So it's a huge problem. So I'm happy to see, I'm not happy to know that this is the hotels and the motels along Telegraph Road or any place else in Monroe County. I-75 up by La Pleasance and in that area is another big, big area. So I'm just happy to hear that they're getting in touch with this program and that the problem that exists here, because it's impacting our kids. That's where it's happening. So that's about all. And the other fact is that those speed signs are cute. They make cute little faces, and I like to see the little guy with the red jumping up and down and stuff, but it doesn't stop. People learn real quick that those don't pass out a ticket. So people may recognize them. It depends on where they're at. I have seen some that work efficiently, but it's more on the 2-lane highways and not 5, and certainly not where you're supposed to be focused on which lane of traffic that you need to get into. That's a safety feature. You need to be paying attention to the road and what's going around you, not what's making a cute little face over here off to the side. So some people may like them. I find my entertainment in other places. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any more comments?
Good evening, Jeff King, 692 Seminole Trail. Speaking to 8H with the discussion this evening of moving a seasonal employee to part-time for maintenance. A little more background information outside of the application you have on hand and the recommendation or the memo that was given by the supervisor. We've had a great time in maintenance. It's been challenging. It has been tough. But I believe with the people that we've had, that we have had a great opportunity to show what we can do with the people that we have. And I'd like to speak to some of the great help that Mr. Walters has provided in his seasonal role in regards to his grave digging experience. He was the head mechanic for Woodlawn, and he has been very beneficial to me and just learning ins and outs while working alongside with Pat and Adam in the department. The week that we had Pat off and Adam out, it was a 3-day week between Christmas and New Year's, and we got a phone call one day from the clerk's department that there was a cremains that needed to be done, and we discussed it. And I talked to Mr. Walters, and he said, yeah, we can find that. That's not a problem. So using the skills and the tools that we had available, we went out, located the grave, dug the grave for it. Perfect. The next day, we get another call that there is a full burial for Monday. So we can either dig it on Tuesday when there is no inclement weather, or we can dig it on Wednesday in a snowstorm. So Dan and I went out, located, got our packet with our information, and Dan instructed me in his heavy equipment and operating machinery skill set to dig the grave with the backhoe myself. So by listening, by watching, by having the opportunity to learn from him with his skill set, very beneficial. He brings things to the table that not everybody can bring, and he is an excellent complement in addition to what we currently have for our responsibilities with cemeteries, cremations, and burials. Snow and ice removal, when we had the small icy blitz, the 28th, which would have been, I believe, the Wednesday of our 3-day week, Dan and I were able to outfit 2 of the vehicles with salt, shovels, and spreaders and come out and hit the parking lot and the sidewalks of both the Township Hall and the library before 4 o'clock. That way we were covered for the snowfall that happened with a long extended weekend. Very helpful there. We also had some cleanup after the snowstorm we had on the 2nd, where Dan went out in the truck and we just pounded the pavement, cleaned up everything we possibly could, just to make sure things were where they needed them to be. And speaking to his automotive prowess, troubleshooting and figuring out the starter on the ordinance vehicle in October, very beneficial that a $90 fix puts a car back on the road and it is ready to go. And then also we had some repair and some maintenance for the assessing department just this past week, where we went and cleaned, pulled out things, changed things, checked fluids, all done very quickly and efficiently. 2 vehicles in 1 day. It was a great day. So if you're considering him, I think he does a very nice job. I believe the comments speak for themselves and what we have here, but I just want you to know what's going on with Mr. Walters in the maintenance department, and that I am in favor of him for the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any more comments from the public? Okay. Moving on to staff reports, approval of the future monthly balance sheet and revenue expenditure reports to be distributed electronically in Excel to the elected officials. Ms. Hirschberger?
Mr. Miller was going to explain this, but it's pretty much self-explanatory here. He would just like to move forward. Instead of putting these in the packets, it's a lot of paper, a lot of work. He thought it would save money, time. Most of these reports, I don't remember ever talking about them at a board meeting anyway. Usually the questions are asked prior to board meetings, not at board meetings. So if we could do this, it would save, like I said, time and money for the township.
I'm totally fine with it. I would just simply say if any elected official requests that it be put in their packet for whatever reason, I think that we should honor the request.
Fine.
You know, I mean, I agree with it. I don't need it in my packet.
I don't either.
But if somebody does want it, I think we should honor that.
I'd speak to that because I do like the hard copy, and I do keep them for keep my own references and for my own records. So I like the hard copies to be able to look through prior reports, and I do. So I would appreciate that. Like if there was I have no problem with, everybody else is fine with electronic as long as there's an exception.
So just whoever wants them hard, email the
Fine with me.
clerk's department. Sounds like we just have one person that wants a hard copy, so.
Right. So if we're going to make the exception, I mean, I really don't need a vote on it. We're probably going to save time and not go through, and there's different reports and we go through and we categorize them and put them together. We probably won't do that any longer. We'll probably just print the copy off and give it to someone if they want it, hard copy. That'll save us time too.
Okay. All right, sounds good. Do you want a motion for that?
Nope.
Okay. No, I mean a motion for your
No.
agenda? Okay. All right, moving on to 8A, approval for vouchers for payment. Ms. Hirschberger?
I'd like to make a motion that the following vouchers be approved for payment. General Fund, $112,528.71. Fire District Fund, $21,373.18. Police Fund, $3,063.11. Park Operating Fund, $1,003.03. Fire Equipment, $40,023.81. Downtown Development Authority, $211.17. Library Operating Fund, $8,591.98. American Rescue Plan, $1,150.01. Stony Brook, Brookwood, SAD, $2,308.55. Deer Creek, SAD, $2,339.74. Road Capital Improvement Fund, $128,571.45. Sewer O&M Fund, $13,703.53. Trust and Agency Fund, $5,774.50, for a grand total of $340,642.77.
Support.
Okay, motion supported by Ms. Januzak. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Hirschberger votes aye. Ms. Janusik?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Mr. Prony?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Item 8B, appointment to the Library Advisory Board. The board consists of 5 members serving 3-year terms. The board meets the 4th Monday of each month at 6:30 at the library. Currently, Janelle DeFelice as the first term ending 12/31/21. I'm totally fine with the appointment. The only thing I would say is the board is struggling with people with a construction experience, like I kind of said in the past. Janelle has the experience of the board now. I think we should probably give her another term, but I will say, Harry, it's a lot for one person to do a lot of the construction and writing up all the stuff for the chillers and for the construction needs. I could just tell you that it's a lot for him. So Al has stepped up, is attending their meetings and getting more involved in the construction projects. I've been sending him, so it's relieved a little bit, them working together, but so I just wanted to say that. So I look for a motion.
Make a motion to approve the reappointment of Janelle DeFelice with her first term ending 12/31/2021 for a second 3-year term.
Support.
Okay, motion and support of Mr. Bruning. Any more discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Ms. Janusik?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Prony?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Item 8C, approval to reimburse the library janitorial staff. I don't know if somebody wants to speak to it. I mean,
thought
Al's
Al was
here if
gonna
the board
come
has any
speak to
questions,
it.
but, from what it looks like to me, you can come on up, Al, if you want, but, it just looks like there's some reimbursement here for lack of work.
Well, basically what transpired, I think, several years ago, Trudy, wasn't it that we required them to do workman's comp?
Yes.
I think it was like 3 years ago or whatever.
Yes.
Well, during COVID, they had been shut down. They weren't cleaning. So what they're looking at is a one-time payment. It's around the $1,400 some dollar mark because they weren't doing anything at times. So they were looking for a little assistance to just offset at this time. I don't know if they were eligible for any programs from the federal government or whatever, but their hours in terms cleaning time, 1 week the library might be totally shut, then nobody was coming in, so they didn't do a lot for quite a while. So the library looked at their budget and they took a look at it and said, yeah, we think we can afford this, and that's where we're at today as a one-time to help them.
Any comments or questions or thoughts?
Janitorial staff, are they employed by Bedford Township or are they outsourced?
Contractors.
Yeah, I think that personally, I feel like that kind of makes a difference when you're contracted with a company. Like, I don't mean to be any type of way, but I don't see this as the township's responsibility. That's my view. Just on a black and white paper situation, I don't see it being the township's responsibility. That'd be how I see that.
Mr. Steiner?
Do we know when their contract expires and when it would renew? with the library?
That we'd have to
I would
check
have to
that.
pull the
I think it's a
contract out.
reoccurring,
Right.
I think it's a reoccurring
Right.
contract.
The only
It
reason I
automatically-
ask is because you may, let's just say if they're toward the end of their contract, they could potentially come back and put a brand new price into. It's hard to go with and say actual reimbursement for insurance purposes. I get what they're saying, about lack of work and operations, but yet they're still having to carry, it's just like your car. You might not drive your car much, but you've still got to carry your insurance. Or you get it knocked down. Now, in this case, when it comes to workers' comp and things, it's not something you can just say, I'm not going to work for 6 months and so drop my wage down. So, I don't know, it's sort of like to know what their contract, and when it's up, it gives them an opportunity then to do it in the contract.
Anybody else?
I
have
was just
any
going to say, I'm just trying to remember. I want to say it was 2019, and they did up their price when we redid the contract. I believe that was in 2019, but I don't remember the length. I feel like it was a short-term contract that gets just revisited, but I don't remember specifically.
I wonder if they went after the funding from the federal. I mean, this is exactly what they were funding companies for. I mean,
The CARES Act.
the CARES Act.
Trillions of dollars.
This is what companies went after. I mean, because this is exactly what was happening to companies. They were losing everything.
Were we their only contract, or were there's?
I have no idea. I mean, Cookie, we have another gal that cleans the township hall, and I don't know if she cleans the parks.
she doesn't.
She cleans the sheriff's office, but I mean,
Yeah.
she was in here, but we were in the offices. So, I mean, she kept cleaning, but I mean, I don't know what hers is compared to their, I know they're a good rate at the library. I mean, we've bid it out. How long ago we bid that out? What was it, a few years ago?
Yeah, that's what I think
I mean, they were,
Craig was saying, like 2019, I think is when we renewed everything.
Well, if they're insured for the purpose of, like, because of us, these insurance policies started in October 19. If that gives you an idea at all.
Mr. Gore, I don't think they have any other contracts besides Bedford. So,
Thank you.
and just so you guys know, Al's neither yay or nay. He just is kind of presenting.
I'm only here for info.
Middleman.
Well, what's the board's pleasure?
I think I would be more seriously considering it if they were township employees, and I don't even know if we've done that type of thing when people are off or whatever for employees looking to reimburse for that type for not obviously not this type of thing, but for similar reasons of making less money.
Well, our ordinance, we had somebody in ordinance off for, I think, a week or so, a couple weeks ago, and that's just lost wages. So personally, I think, when somebody doesn't have vacation or sick time, the ARPA money we have is in place for stuff like that. I think we should help out when we can.
Can
But
we use ARPA money for that?
I believe so. I think so. We
It's
just
based
board.
on the pandemic? Mm-hmm. I mean,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what I was going to ask Mr. Miller, obviously he's not here tonight, that if this is something that, because we can expend something potentially, and ARPA funds can replenish the township.
Yeah, but I think what Craig is saying is that they're not employees. It's a
Correct.
contractor. I think you could end up opening up,
Pandora's box.
you know what I mean? It's because we have a lot of contractors, and just,
They're
Glick
gonna want-
Electric, we haven't had any work for them in
They're going
months.
to want to get
and-
paid then.
yeah,
You know,
well,
so I
I was
mean-
just going to ask that, is this going to open Pandora's box for other contracts?
It's no different than Glick Electric or Rawlings. It's a contractor, so. Okay, I'm gonna look for a motion. Okay, seeing none, so the motion, there is no motions. We're moving on. Okay, thank you, Al, for being here. Appreciate it. Okay, item D, approve a resolution to establish the 2022 sewer use charges. Ms. Janizek?
These are the sewer rates and charges that we bill out quarterly to our residents for 2022. I did some calculations. It's basically on the second to last page and last page. The rates are going up approximately 7% from last year. Obviously, costs have gone up. We have to be self-sufficient in the sewer system. I understand that it's not always fun to raise rates and stuff, but the proposed rates for 2022, the monthly rate for the operations usage per 1,000 gallons would go from $5.80 to $6.11. The depreciation charge, the monthly rate, now we bill quarterly, so this is just, these are monthly, would be $1.93. Debt service charge is $11.98. So if you figure the quarterly rate based on 20,000 gallons, which is what our sewer users who are on a well are charged, the 20,000 gallon would be $122.20. Depreciation would be $5.79. Your debt service charge for the 3 months would be $35.94 for a total of $163.93 for the quarterly sewer bill going forward.
Krista,
Yeah.
with, obviously, we just, took a loan out and, we're passing on the cost to the residents for the upgrades for all the sewer plant, which was roughly $20 million. Are we actively doing anything now or putting anything in place for the future for the next upgrade or for the next, to where we're putting money aside, charging the residents a little bit extra, putting that aside so that way in 25 years,
That's part of what the
That's
debt
part of what
service
it is.
charge
Good.
is, yes.
So-
Yeah, your depreciation charge is for chemicals and maintenance, and your debt service charge is to pay off bonds for sewer treatment plant expansions. And so we keep continually have to do that.
so do we have potentially an amount that we would have
I can't tell.
potentially in 25 years enough to cover a new upgrade, or is it just because I know
Between us and the county, I would have to talk to the county to see.
that'd be
But I do
interesting
know
where
that we
we'd
have
be at.
money and they have money as well, so.
it'd be nice to know kind of where we would sit potentially with interest and everything over 25 years, if it's just $2 million or if it's $50
We can
million.
also hire a consultant. I do know that several years ago, we did have a consultant come in, and that's part of where I got some of these rates from was that consultant. He did a plan out till 2025, I think, or 2024. We could have him come in and go over future rates and stuff like that. We can talk to him about that as well.
Okay.
It's an option.
Okay,
I have a question, though,
Mr. Spur.
and correct me if I'm wrong, but when we upgraded, didn't the Drain Commission tell us that we were going to be looking at probably a 7% increase every
Yes.
year for so long?
Yes.
And then it would level out?
Yes. Looking at, and that's the rate sheet that I was just talking about, that it was going through 2020. I can't remember if it's 2024 or 2025, that it was approximately a 7% increase. Now, I know it went up a lot more in 2020, not a whole lot more, like 0.03%, but it was because there was a reduction that should not have taken place back in 19. So that's why that one was higher back then.
Okay. Any more comments or questions? Okay. I look for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the sewer usage rates for 2022 as presented.
Support.
Okay, motion supported by Mr. Bruning. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Ms. Jandisek?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 7-0. Item 8E, reapproval of a waiver from the 6-to-1 ratio for a land division for parcel 5802-020-117-00 and 5802-020-117-00 020-119-00. This has been before the board in the past, and the time frame to get it done lapsed, so it was sent back for reapproval. So
Yeah, I'll make a motion if anybody, unless anybody has any questions or anything. All right, I'll make a motion to reapprove the waiver from the 6-to-1 ratio for a land division for parcel 5802-020-117-00 and 5802-020-119-00.
Support.
Okay, motion is supported by Mr. Bruning. Discussion?
I just have a question. Isn't it 8.81 to 1 ratio? Because it says applicant is requesting an 8.81 to 1 ratio, not a 6.
It exceeds the 6-to-1. Yes,
Yeah.
you're right.
Okay.
So,
So you need
I
to
was just
change
reading
that,
about
yeah.
that, yeah. So
Okay.
amending that to the 8.81 to 1.
Still support.
Okay. Just call the roll, please.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 7-0. Okay. Item 8F, approval of Monroe County Road Commission contracts. These are 10 separate contracts, need 10 separate motions. So this will happen next fiscal year roughly. Some of the projects might start, but currently, if you're looking at this year's budget, okay, we have extra money because these projects will be in next fiscal year's budget. Okay, so we haven't even talked about the budget yet. So, but this is when they approve the contract. So, we will at least need to budget $202,000, and we'll be able to cover it. So, the first one, I'll make a motion that we approve the chip sealing work from the Monroe County Road Commission off Clegg Road, .59 miles, single chip seal, and the amount of $13,019.
Second.
Okay, motion supported by Mr. Steiner. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Peroni?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye.
The motion passed 7-0. Up next is Crab, Stearns to Dean, 1 mile of single chip seal in the amount of $21,835. I'll make a motion we approve that.
Second.
Okay, motion is supported by Ms. Januzak.
Is there
Discussion?
anything, is it any different because it's the county paying for it?
We still have to approve it, but
Let's do
our
it.
total is 0.
Okay.
So this is all under the County Road Commission's charge.
Okay.
Okay, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Peroni?
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye.
Okay, motion passed 7-0. Crab Road again from Dean to Erie, 1.98 miles, single chip seal, in the amount of $43,366. I'll make a motion for that.
Second.
Okay, motion is supported by Mr. Steiner. Discussion? Okay, seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Peroni?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye.
Okay, the motion passed 7-0. Next is Dean from Lewis to Ann Arbor Railroad, 0.55 miles of single chip seal in the amount of $12,062. I'll make a motion to approve that.
Support.
Supported by Mr. Gore. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Peroni?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye.
Okay, and the motion passed 7-0. Next is school, Township line to Secor, 1.08 miles, a single chip seal. The cost being $22,793. I'll make a motion for that.
I'll support.
Okay, motion is supported by Mr. Gore. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Peroni?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye.
Okay, the motion passed 7-0. Up next is Smith Road from Township line to Whiteford Center, .5 mile single chip seal, $10,704. I'll make a motion for that.
Support.
Okay, supported by Mr. Bruning. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Peroni?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Ms. Janusik?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye.
Okay, the motion passed 7-0. Up next is Crab from US 24 to Stearns, .89 miles of overband crack fill in the amount of $43.75. I'll make a motion, we approve that.
Second.
Okay, motion supported by Mr. Steiner. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Peroni?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Ms. Janusik?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye.
Okay, the motion passed 7-0. The next is just various excess grade all work for ditching in the amount of $5,000. I'll make a motion, we move forward with that.
Second.
Okay, motion supported, Ms. Januzak. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Peroni?
Aye.
Ms. Janusik?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye.
Okay, the motion passed 7-0. Up next is two applications, 16 feet wide, solid, 2,000 gallons per mile. First application in June, second application after Labor Day of calcium chloride. The estimate is 57,500 gallons in the amount of $45,600. I'll make a motion to approve that.
Support.
Okay, motion supported by Mr. Bruning. Discussion, just so everybody knows, this is for all the dirt roads to keep the dust down. We don't have to do calcium chloride. It is more expensive, but it does last a lot longer. It's been recommended. We have been using it. It has worked for the last few years, so I recommend we keep going with it, but we could save money, by using a cheaper product, okay. Could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Peroni?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Ms. Janusik?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye.
Okay, the motion passed 7-0. Up next is a cutting of the ditches. The first cut would be in the spring to the center of the ditch, second cutting in the summer, back sides of the ditch, third cutting in the fall, both sides of the ditch. The work would be completed by Precision Irrigation. They've been doing a great job for the past few years with us. Very happy. They communicate with us and make sure everything's done. If it's not, they get right out there and get it done. I'll move forward on that in the amount of $23,600.
Support.
Okay, motion supported by Mr. Gore. Discussion? Okay, seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Peroni?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Ms. Janusik?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye.
Okay, the motion passed 7-0. I just want to comment really quick. These roads is just maintenance. We're in maintenance now. We will be for at least a couple more years. There is a couple major projects that would be coming at some point, one being the final application on Crab Road, which we're trying to get that changed over right now from a local road to a primary road. It hasn't been easy, with the change in management, because last director manager wanted to do it, and now so the new one's not totally in favor. So we're trying to still get that done, but not sure if we can get it done. So, but that is a $400,000 project, so I would recommend this budget year, when we budget, for the roads we're doing, we budget a couple extra few hundred thousand and put it in our road savings fund and keep building that up so we have the money for big projects. Okay, moving on to 8H, approval to move a seasonal worker to part-time in the maintenance department. Okay, this is Dan Walters. Mr. King pretty much hit all my points on what I was going to talk about.
So I got to give him a raise now.
I guess there's no reason for me to go over. We did follow policy. I met with Ms. Hirschberger, Ms. Januzak, and we were in agreement that this is the applicant that we wanted to send to the board for approval, which is how the process is supposed to be. So, like I said, I can go over everything that Mr. King said, but he's a great employee. He's an asset. You know, I've expressed to him, you know, about getting some certifications in the mechanic field. And if he is going to remain a part-time employee, I would recommend that we bring his pay level where it would need to be, you know, with him doing all the mechanical work. I mean, because it is going to save us a decent amount of money having somebody on staff that, you know, not only can do oil changes, but do brakes and fix mower equipment and not have to send it out for, you know.
I'm sorry, is there money in the budget that if he does go get certifications for reimbursement, tuition reimbursement or anything like that, or is that something he does on his own?
Currently right now it's just online stuff. It's pretty low cost, and so, but we can talk to him about that now that he's not a seasonal employee. You know, he's a part-time employee. I don't see why we wouldn't be able to pay for some of that.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Especially if it's going to save us money in the
Yeah.
long run.
But he's a great employee. So, anybody have any comments? No. Okay, I look for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we move Dan Walters from a seasonal employee to a part-time employee in the maintenance department effective immediately.
Second.
Okay, motion is supported. Discussion. I would say the only thing that we did not do was publish in the newspaper, which I think if we're not going to do that because we do want to save money, then we should probably remove it from the policy. And that goes for everything. You know, we really, you know, we're not publishing, but it's in our policy. We need to follow our policy if the policy's there. So,
Yeah.
so that was the only thing that we did not do was publish it. So,
Who was
in
the second?
newspaper.
Mr. Steiner.
Stein.
So should we have the committee recommend that change? So we
If
can-
that's what the
I mean,
board feels we need to do. If the
we have
board
to
feels
vote on
we need
the
to keep,
policy.
I mean, to be honest with you, putting it in the paper, a lot more people see it.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a bad thing, but I'm just saying if we're not going to do that aspect of it and the board agrees, we should probably add it to an agenda item, discuss it.
I say, because that could go both ways too, you know, so.
For something like this, it probably wouldn't be a bad thing. But with Facebook, I mean, we get a lot of applications. We get a lot of interest. So it's not that. And we have great employees. So, I mean, whatever we're doing is working, you know, so. Okay. Just call the roll.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Ms. Janusik?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Item 8I, approve a resolution for a charitable gaming license for Little Blessings and Veteran and Community Outreach, Inc. Ms. Hirschberger?
This application was given to us. Apparently, they went to the state and they received the license, and now they're coming back to us because the state told them that they need to get approval from us if they want to get that license again in the future.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
Well, if we're going to make a motion, I think we should put a stipulation that for future that they come to us first rather than after the fact to get the license.
I think that's why it went down the last time, because they came to us after the fact.
Yeah, it was taken off.
It was taken off.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is still the same one it's coming to us after the fact.
Okay.
But if we don't approve this one, then they can't go forward for any of them in the future. But we couldn't put the stipulation that we're approving this, but all future, they have to come to us first before they get a license from the state.
I look for a motion.
I'll still make the motion to approve a resolution for a charitable gaming license for Little Blessings Veteran and Community Outreach Incorporated, with the stipulation that any future gaming license applications, they must come to the township first.
Support.
Okay, motion in support of Mr. Bruning. Discussion. I would just say, with putting that in there, if we do get in a situation, you know, where, let's just say another charity comes, like the Lions Den or whatever, any of them, you know, where they say they do go to it and they come back to us, we could really put the screws to them by putting this in there.
This is the first time it's ever happened.
Oh, okay.
It's never happened before. Most of them,
I just don't want to put us in a situation to where we, you know, we're stuck with.
Is that something that could be addressed in policy, or do we have a policy on that?
This would only apply to this organization because they, I don't know that it was intentional, but they did kind of an end run, so it would only apply to them. It wouldn't apply to
Okay,
any
so
other.
this is not, okay, so
Yeah.
just for them,
Just for them. Okay.
which I think that
I
makes
mean,
sense.
it's across the board.
Okay.
You have to come here first before you go to the state.
How does somebody know that?
By contacting the clerk's office.
But I'm saying though, if they
And I think usually the state will notify them, have you been to the township to obtain your resolution? Because it's, the first function is for the township to look at their articles of organization or incorporation, make sure they're a 501c3 corp, all of those things. And if everything's in order, as is in this application, then it comes before the board. You resolve to approve it, it goes to the state. But normally, the state will say, have you been to your local unit of government first?
Okay, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 7-0. Up next is comments from the public. Any comments from the public? Okay, seeing none, moving on to comments from board members. Mr. Bruning?
No, everyone have a good weekend.
Okay, Mr. Gore?
I'm saying, everyone have a great weekend.
Mr. Montrak?
Nothing for me.
Mr. Steiner?
I just like the fact that these guys are pushing us, saying, have a good weekend. No, nothing else tonight.
It's pretty far off, yeah, isn't it?
That's right.
Okay, Ms. Janizek?
I don't have anything. Have a good evening.
Ms. Hirschberger?
Nothing. Have a good evening.
Okay, just a couple things. I'll keep it short since I'm the only one talking. So just so everybody knows, there's a website, the covidtest.gov, where you can get on and get your free test if you're interested in them. A lot of people are calling the township wondering where the COVID tests are. So if you want to look at them, I think you could get 4 free for each family. It's covidtest.gov. So I just want to let people know about that. That was released today because you go into corner store and the people are lined up out the door spending $30 a pop on them. So I just want to say how proud I am of this board and past boards for the work and time and effort we put into our roads. We truly do have some of the best roads around by far, and we're at a point now to where we're just maintaining them. We spent over $1 million a year for a long time to get it to that point. So I just wanted to mention that. And the county has not decided yet what to do with the American Rescue Plan money as far as not the drains, the culverts. That is going to the county level to decide if they're going to pay for culverts. But we are having one more meeting tomorrow morning at 9 at the drain office that I'll be attending and representing. So hopefully we can get that 200-something thousand for our culverts. But other than that, just because we're not getting millions of dollars from the county, it's a positive thing because there is millions of dollars going into the county. For even Frenchtown and Luna Pier, a lot of good things are happening. With a bigger bulk of money. So I just wanted to mention that. But other than that, everybody have a great rest of your week, and I look for motion to stand adjourned.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, motion supported.